Part 1. You will hear a conversation between a customer and a sales assistant in a shop. First, you have some time to look at questions 1 to 5. Now listen carefully and answer questions 1 to 5.
Good morning, madam. Can I help you?
Yes, hello. I have a complaint to make about this vacuum cleaner. I'm wanting to return it, please.
Oh dear, I'm sorry to hear that. Well, could I take down your details first? Your name, please?
It's Diane Ruddick. That's R-U-D-D-I-C-K.
Fine, thanks. And your address?
It's 34 Garden Avenue.
I haven't heard of that one. That's here in Hamilton, is it?
Yes, it is. It's just a small street.
Right. And what number can I reach you on?
That would be 970-7520. And that's home, because my mobile is not working at the moment. And at the office, I share a phone line, so it's better not to call me at work.
Okay, then. And now a few details about the product itself. When did you buy it? Do you remember?
Yes, it says on the receipt. Hang on, I need my glasses to read it. Does that say the 21st of July? Oh, no, sorry, it's the 31st.
Mm-hmm. And I see you've got the vacuum with you. It looks like a Volta budget model. What's the size of the motor on that one?
It says 2,000 watts.
Okay, and I can see that it's a nice bright red, so I'll just write that down.
Yes, I like the colour. And I got it for an excellent price too. Only $104 on sale, which was good, considering that I'd nearly bought one for $130 in another shop.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 6 to 10. Now listen and answer questions 6 to 10.
Okay, well, that all sounds very good. So what seems to be the matter with it? Does it not clean your floor properly?
No, it does, but it's definitely faulty because there's a problem with the handle. Do you see? It's permanently stuck in this upright position. It won't fold back down into place as it should.
Okay, well, that's annoying for you. There are a couple of possible solutions. One thing we could do is I could keep it here for now and offer you a repair at no charge.
No, thanks. I think I'd like to exchange it for a better model.
Right. You'll have to stick with the Volta brand as that's all we stock. But if you like, I can show you the other options and we can find the one that suits you best. Now, would you want any special features? Some of them come with a dust bag which can be used again and again.
That sounds like it would be useful.
Now, I'd better check the cost is all right for you, ma'am, as there will be a difference to pay. Do you see this price label here?
Yes, that'll be all right. My range was always from about $100 to $200 maximum, so $180 would be fine.
Well, it looks as though we've found you a better appliance. Now, do you have a preference as to colour? The Volta Ultima comes in 3 colourways. As you can see, the sky blue is pretty.
Yes, it looks good in that colour, but I think I'll take the silver one, please. Although I do love that shade of purple.
Right, we don't actually have one in stock, but they're coming in on Tuesday. Would you like to come in and collect it then?
No, I'd rather...
That is the end of Part 1. You now have 1 minute to check your answers to Part 1.
Part 2. You will hear an amateur photographer called Darren giving a talk about his photographs of a type of animal called a squirrel. First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 15. Now listen carefully and answer questions 11 to 15.
Thanks for inviting me here today. I'll start by showing you some of my photographs and explaining a bit of background about the red squirrel, and then give some general advice for those of you who might be interested in doing some nature photography of your own. So, let's look at my first slide, a young red squirrel. Its Latin name, Sciurus vulgaris, derives from the Greek word scia, meaning shadow, and ura, meaning tail. I thought this was a bit funny at first, and couldn't make any sense of the phrase, until I realized that it translated as an animal sitting in the shadow of its tail. And then it all fell into place, because that's what the red squirrel does. This photo was taken right outside my back door. Before I started, I set myself the goal of taking all these photographs in my garden, but using different kinds of camera and incorporating a variety of different contextual features. Squirrels amongst birds, for example. But why such a fascination with this animal? Well, the red squirrel was once common throughout much of Britain. In the late 19th century, the American gray squirrel was introduced into this country. Some people believe that they brought a disease with them that reduced the red squirrel population. But the decline of the red species had already started long before the grays came to the country, and my theory is that it's to do with fewer nuts, which reds love to eat, being available. The only place reds seem to thrive now is in one or two ancient forests. But how did I go about capturing them on film? Well, a wildlife photographer friend of mine advised me to use lure or bait of hazelnuts. She told me that you have to attract them over several months by leaving out nuts. Of course, lots of other animals love to eat hazelnuts, but evidence of red squirrels is clear. Mice, for example, gnaw a neat hole through the shell, whereas a red squirrel picks up the nut, spins it until it finds a fault line, and splits it in two with one bite, removing the nut from within. I soon began to see signs of red squirrel visits to my patch, and I knew that I'd eventually see the animals themselves. I was amazed by how soon they started arriving, jumping delightfully around the trees and clotheslines. At first, they were very reluctant to come within a 10-meter radius of me, but soon they began to recognize the hand that fed them, and they boldly approached me. And I began to get some pretty remarkable photographs. It's curious, but the actual photography side of things didn't bother me too much. Although I had had only a little practice, and my cameras were largely second-hand, I'd had a very good mentor and picked up a lot of tips from her. It was really the attracting of the animals and capturing them in the most natural situations that I was most concerned about.
Before you hear the rest of the talk, you have some time to look at questions 16 to 20. Now listen and answer questions 16 to 20.
I exhibited a selection of them in the local museum when friends advised me to show them to a wider audience. Also, much to my surprise, I won third prize in a competition organized by a national newspaper. But what advice can I give to any of you who might be thinking of embarking on something similar? Well, Tracy, my photography expert friend, and I spent a bit of time thinking about this, and we came up with the following 5 points, specifically related to nature photography. First of all, although a good camera is always of great importance, the crucial requirement for this kind of work must be a tripod. The level of detail needed, not to mention the weight of a good zoom lens, means that simply bracing your arm won't do. Next, our review of a large number of outstanding photographs tells us that just having the animal in shot can be misleading. Make sure you set up the shot in such a way that what is named a secondary object is in view. It can be a branch, flowers, masonry, whatever you want. This helps portray the prime object in proper perspective. Next, and this might seem bizarre, take care to look behind you when you're setting up a shot. The number of times I've found that the most original new shot is in the very place I've just passed. Now, it's a well-known dictum in photography that midday or early afternoon light has the effect of bleaching true color. Late afternoon light is my favorite, with its warm red colors. Morning light can be beautiful, but has a starker yellow glow. And finally, if you're at all serious about your nature or wildlife photography, take the trouble to make detailed notes on all your shots. Mention information on time, equipment, setting, etc., and this will work like a recipe book to help you recognize what contributed to successful shots.
That is the end of Part 2. You now have 45 seconds to check your answers to Part 2. Part 3. You will hear 2 second-year students called Rick and Anita discussing the electives they can choose from on their engineering course. First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 26. Now listen carefully and answer questions 21 to 26.
Hi, Anita. Did you see that the information about the electives we can choose from this year has just gone up on the class website?
Really? Great! Do you want to look at it together? We'd better sign up as soon as possible.
I guess so, but it says on the site that we can't register any choices until 3 o'clock.
Oh, okay. But we need to get a move on, I think. Some people told me last year that they got turned away from a couple of the choices they wanted because they were too slow to decide.
Let's have a look at it all on my laptop then. It's pretty complicated working out which classes are compulsory and what restrictions there are on your choices.
Yes, we all have to do a language class of some kind, don't we? I think that's a really good idea.
That's not quite right. We can do a business class or a philosophy or economics one instead if we want. The required classes are thermodynamics, machine system dynamics, and mathematics.
Oh no! Oh, I was sure we had finished with that last year.
Well, I suppose it's important for us.
Guess you must be right. So let's look at the descriptions of the topics covered by the classes we can choose from. Can you get them up on the screen?
Sure. The information also tells you how the classes are graded. Some of them have exams, but others just have classwork.
Yes, but that shouldn't influence our choices, should it? I'd say it'd be more important to try to find out how good the professor is.
True. That can make or break any class.
Well, we'll have to ask the seniors to get that kind of information.
True. I know several people have recommended the statistics class, but it would mean a very early start on Monday morning.
Well, that's not a bad thing, is it? What puts me off more is that everyone says it's very hard work.
Oh, I don't know. Not if you've done lots of stats before. And I did a special elective on it in high school. And it's very relevant, isn't it? We're bound to need it whatever work we end up doing.
Fair enough. Then there's an art and design class. My advisor said he wouldn't recommend doing that one.
Really?
Well, he said lots of people think it's an easy elective, but that actually it's very time-consuming.
I wouldn't have expected that.
Well, I thought it might be, but it's useful to know for sure, isn't it? Sometimes people's advice can make decisions even harder, but I found that really helpful.
What I don't know is the amount of practical work each class involves. I'd like to find that out.
No, it's there. Look, if you click on that link, you'll get all that sort of information.
Great. And the class times are there too. So, how do we tell them when we've made our choices?
Maybe we need to go and see our advisors. Or is there something we have to do online?
Okay, let's go and talk to the secretary and find out.
Good idea.
Before you hear the rest of the discussion, you have some time to look at questions 27 to 30. Now listen and answer questions 27 to 30.
How about thinking about the electives we did last year? Maybe that'd help us decide.
Okay. We both did metallurgy, didn't we? It was pretty good, I think. It involved a lot of library work, but I quite enjoyed that.
Yes, it was definitely useful and well structured, but it was the most difficult class I chose. I didn't think it would be that bad.
Neither did I. But I didn't mind because some of my other electives were fairly straightforward.
Yes, even fluid mechanics wasn't too bad.
No, the online tutorials weren't much help, but the professor made some hard stuff seem pretty easy, I thought.
Yes, he was great at simplifying concepts that were actually really hard to grasp. You did computing too, didn't you? What was that like?
It was okay. The later classes were much better than the earlier ones. Initially, I didn't like it much, but I liked it once we started getting more hands-on stuff. And what did you think about the energy economics course we both did?
Well, it was useful, except for the notes on the internet. They were pretty disappointing.
I liked the way it wasn't too theoretical, though, and the fact that much of it was based on solving real problems. It really helped me get better at working through the questions we'd have to answer for our coursework.
Yes, but more input from our advisors might have been helpful, don't you think?
That is the end of Part 3. You now have 30 seconds to check your answers to Part 3.
Now listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 40.
Good morning. My name's Susan Mossman, and as well as being a part-time lecturer on the university's Museum Science degree, I'm also curator of a new exhibition opening at the Bidmouth Museum called Plasticity. This traces the history of plastics and ways they are being developed and used today. The first type of plastic was originally developed in response to a call from the makers of sports equipment. Animal-derived materials were becoming extremely expensive, so manufacturers launched a competition to find an alternative to ivory for making pool and billiard balls. Although various forms of plastic were developed, none of them were good enough to win the competition. But the inventors knew they were onto a good thing and started researching a variety of different substances, partly based on organic material, what we call semi-synthetics. One of the early semi-synthetic materials produced was the first commercially produced celluloid, or plastic film, which was made by dissolving cotton in a strong acid, such as nitric acid. Unfortunately, this had a tendency to explode, so technicians had to be very careful with it. They also experimented with making plastics out of products derived from milk, but this didn't really work, and efforts were therefore concentrated on other organic material. One of the first uses of plastic was in the production of artificial fabric, and the earliest successful one was a substitute for silk. This was obviously a very expensive fiber, so artificial alternatives were thought to be worth investing in. The next significant breakthrough came in 1907 with the invention of Bakelite. This was the first entirely synthetic plastic made in a laboratory. It was invented by Hendrik Baekeland, a chemist who had made a fortune from producing paper used in photographic processes. Bakelite is a pretty unusual type of plastic because it actually gets hard when it's heated, whereas most other plastic becomes more malleable when hot. That is, they become more plastic, which is of course where the name for the category of materials comes from. So, strictly speaking, Bakelite isn't a plastic at all. But now let's look at the exhibition itself. In it, we show a variety of semi-synthetic and totally synthetic plastics, some of them dating back 100 years. Some of the older plastics on display are unstable. This means that when they are in the process of degrading, they may produce gases which are acidic and which can cause neighboring objects in the display to disintegrate. We had to be very careful with these displays because there is one thing which causes plastic objects to degrade or break down, and that is light. So we've had to think of ways to get around this problem when setting up the objects on display. We have about 850 objects in the exhibition. One of our most interesting is a magnificent chandelier, a lamp designed to hang in the center of the ceiling of a big hall. It's only when you look carefully that you can see this is a wonderful example of recycling. It's made entirely of pens, ones which we use and throw away every day. A second exhibit, which is drawing a lot of attention, is a car made entirely from plastic, which is now in small-scale production in Japan.